Broadcasting from the Community Service Radio Studios at the Pop Music Academy in Sellersburg, Indiana, it's Dangerous Subversive Radio. I am your host, Tim Rotalick, and the man behind the curtain is master engineer and producer Jackie Smith. Welcome. Prepare to open your minds and question everything. And with this, my good friend, master engineer and producer Jackie Smith has fulfilled my lifelong ambition of being a talk radio show host. Right now, we resemble the very earliest days of talk radio, which was 3 hours of a guy sitting and talking into a microphone. Later on, we acquired the ability for callers to interact, to call in, and I have every confidence that Jackie Smith is going to be able to do that for us in the near future. For right now, I wish you could see what I'm seeing. This guy's got 4 different monitors, 3 boxes with sliders on them, and an iPad sitting there, and I can tell he is having a blast. This is what he was born to do. So radically different format than we've had on our previous shows. For one thing, those were all YouTube shows, so they had to have a heavy visual element. We have moved our studio to our recording setup to Studio B at the Pop Music Academy Studios. And you can see that now we got a nice comfy couch for me to sit on. And I got to tell you, I got a couple of dogs laying on the floor over here. I got a nice lamp here on the table, and I am digging this. So, welcome to Dangerous Subversive Radio. So I would like to, we've had to make some other adjustments here. Basically, I've got my computer in front of me with my show notes. And so you're going to have to bear with me every once in a while. I'm going to have to look down. I'm going to have to scroll through the notes, but we should be just fine. Okay? So I would like to begin this episode with a Donald Trump update. I actually did a little bit of research on this one. I actually put out a question on Facebook asking people what exactly it is that they don't like about this man. And I can tell you in the last year, no change whatsoever. What do you not like about Donald Trump? Well, he's anti-immigrant. Well, is that why I can show you a picture of him standing next to Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali receiving the Ellis Island Medal of Honor from the National National Ethnic Coalition of Organizations. Of course, we all know that the National Ethnic Coalition of Organizations is simply a front for every white supremacist hate group in the country. And the Ellis Island Medal of Honor is the award they give to the most anti-immigrant white supremacists they can find. Yeah, right. You say you don't like him because he's anti-immigrant. The truth is, you say he's anti-immigrant because you don't like him. Okay, well,
I think you're onto something there, Tim.
Yeah, I'm only getting started here. He only cares about rich people. Okay, well, is that why his foundation donated $31 million to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital? If you're not familiar with St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, that's the hospital that provides free medical care to seriously ill children, but only if they're rich. And they also provide, free housing, free transportation to all their rich parents. Do you remember his show, the Celebrity Apprentice? If you do remember, if you ever watched the show, the premise of the show, it was not to fire celebrities. It was to have celebrities do various tasks to raise money for the charity of their choice. The celebrity who raised the most money was the one who didn't get fired. Now, you remember charities, don't you? There was those organizations that raise people, that raise money for rich people, right? Well, I'll tell you what. You say you don't like him because he only cares about rich people. The truth is, you say he only cares about rich people because you don't like him. Yeah, well, he's a liar. Well, here's yet another way in which I am disadvantaged by not yet being able to interact with my audience. If I could have you here on the air, you could point out to me specifically which lies he has told, and you could show me that it can be factually substantiated that they are lies. One thing about which I can rest assured, though, is the fact that you are equally outraged by these lies. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your healthcare plan, you can keep your healthcare plan. How about this one? It was all because of a YouTube video. Or the classic, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. You say you don't like him because he's a liar. The truth is, you say he's a liar because you don't like him. And right now, all these people are saying, well, that's just bullcrap. But way back, in the back of your mind, there's a little voice that's saying, he's right. And you'll do everything you can to suppress it, but it's there, and you can't get rid of it. So you say, well, he's a racist. Okay. Ben Carson, a black man, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Elaine Chao, an Asian woman, Secretary of Transportation. Seema Verma, a Middle Eastern woman, the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Okay. Well, yeah, but he's a racist because he doesn't have enough minorities in his administration. I'm telling you that a racist would not have hired any of these people for his administration. So you say he's a racist. You say you don't like him because he's a racist. The truth is, you say he's a racist because you don't like him. Well, he's a misogynist. Okay, once again, Elaine Chao, Asian woman, Secretary of Transportation. Seema Verma, the administrator for the Centers of Medicaid and Medicare, is a Middle Eastern woman. Kellyanne Conway, his campaign manager, is a woman. His press secretary, Sarah Huckabee, is a woman. His ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, is a woman. A misogynist would not have hired any of these women to serve in his administration. So you say you don't like him because he's a misogynist. The truth is, you say he's a misogynist because you don't like him. Okay, he's anti-immigrant, only cares about rich people. He's a liar. He's a racist. He's a misogynist. Have we pretty much covered it for about the millionth time? My point here is all these accusations, whether one at a time or all bundled together, they have two things in common. One, the people who utter them cannot show you one shred of evidence that they are true. And I have just presented evidence that they are not. Now, after I posed the question on Facebook, somebody asked me, as a matter of fact, a member of my family, said, the better question is, why do you like him? Other than the fact that he's not Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. Well, let's see. He's not the guy who ran guns to Mexican drug lords, counting on them being used to murder people in order to foment anti-gun sentiment in this country. Yeah, I like that he's not that guy. He's not the woman who left 4 American SEALs to die in an Islamist attack on an American consulate and denying numerous and desperate pleas for increased security at that consulate. And instead of sending military help, blamed it on a YouTube video and then said, hey, what difference does it make? Do I like that he's not that woman? Yes, I like that. So I'll tell you 2 more things that I do like about Donald Trump. He does not bow down to foreign leaders. And if you want to know why people get upset about this, it's because bowing down to a leader is a gesture of subservience to that leader. So yeah, I also like that he doesn't think the United States needs to be taken down a peg or 2. I like it that he told the crazy fat kid that if he takes us on, he's going to lose. Okay. Now, look, was Donald Trump my first choice for president? Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, he wasn't?
Absolutely not.
Really, he was mine.
Well, and this is where me and my good friend Jackie Smith are going to have to agree to
I
disagree.
just don't understand.
Because reasonable people who are friends could do that. They can agree to disagree. If I had my first choice, well, during the campaign, actually, I was leaning toward Rand Paul because he was the only one in all of my listenings who actually referenced the Constitution on the campaign platform. Oh gosh, I can't even remember his name. Hispanic guy.
Little Marco.
No, not Marco. Other Hispanic guy.
Cruz.
Cruz. Yeah, Ted Cruz. He may have done that too, but you can tell how much of an impression he made on me during that campaign.
Kind of, they had that Lion Ted thing going.
Yeah. Well, if I had my choice, if I had my druthers, my absolute perfect choice would be, he wasn't even running, but Trey Gowdy, Representative Trey Gowdy of North Carolina.
Amazing human being.
Amazing human being. This guy politically is a rock star. You got to listen to him. Next time you get a chance, listen to Trey Gowdy. Look him up on YouTube. Plenty of stuff on there for you to listen to. I honestly believe that if we had Trey Gowdy and, let's say, 2,000 more people just like him in the top 2,000 positions in our federal government, I believe that the United States would enter a new golden age.
You know what, Tim? I think the reason you think the way you do, or did, I mean, about Donald Trump is because of the media.
Yeah,
90%.
I think it is. Yeah. You know, and
because they would have done the same thing to Trey Gowdy. They would have done the same thing to anybody running for that position. Anybody.
Do you think they would have done that? But all those other people are inside the beltway, as they say.
Yeah, but Trey Gowdy does not seem like a conformist to me.
He is not.
Yeah.
He is not a conformist.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of it is the media. And I'm wondering how much longer this tantrum is going to go on. His first term is 1/4 of the way over. And yet we're still, like I said, the media is just having a conniption fit over him. Now, Donald Trump is brash. He's abrasive. He doesn't really have a very good filter. And I really wish he would stop tweeting. Or else use a tweet writer.
I don't wish he would stop tweeting.
Presidents have used speech writers for years.
Yeah, but it's kind of nice to see his... Do you read his tweets?
No, I don't do Twitter.
I'll tell you what. Here's some homework for you.
Okay.
Read his tweets. Next week when you come back, let's see what you think.
I do have Twitter on my phone.
Yeah.
I stopped trying to use Twitter because I had like 4 followers. I'm pretty sure 2 of them were not actual human beings.
Well, here's what I discovered about it, Tim.
Okay.
I discovered that when I went ahead and read the tweets, I found out why everyone was complaining about him tweeting. Because he was telling the truth the way he sees it. And the way he sees it is pretty much the way most of us see it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do I think not having a filter and being brash and abrasive are grounds for impeachment? No, I don't. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care how many people he offends. Actually, I don't care how many people anyone offends. I don't vote for a president to not offend people. I vote for a president to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. When he starts failing at that job, then I'll be ready to talk. Meanwhile, employment down to 4%, lower than it's been in 10 years? Over 1 million new jobs created. The stock market setting record closings over 60 times. Major corporations announcing that due to their corporate tax break, they are going to give substantial bonuses to all of their employees. Housing construction up 13%, more than it's been in several years. Okay? Now, not trying to point out any cause and effect relationship. I'm just saying that all these things have happened in the last year. And Donald Trump's been president for the last year. So, okay. So that concludes our Donald Trump update. Now, we haven't had much of a break from mass shootings recently. Within days of each other, we had mass shootings at a Home Depot in Thornton, Colorado, and a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Death toll of 3 in Thornton, Colorado, much higher than in Sutherland, Texas. Now, the reason I bring up these two is that there was a big difference in these two shootings. And of course, I'm not downplaying anything. Any shooting is tragic, but I have to point out that there was something very different about these two. And of course, there was discussion on the social media about this. I commented on a thread wondering if the Home Depot was a gun-free zone. Instantaneous backlash accusing me of trying to deflect blame back onto Home Depot. Well, it turns out that Home Depot is not a gun-free zone. And there were several people. If it was, there were several people who disobeyed that gun-free zone that night. Because another comment on this thread on Facebook said, well, I heard there were 6 other people there who drew their guns and no one even shot him. So don't give me this argument about if only I had a gun. Well, let's take a look at that, okay? You have a concealed carry permit. Your packet. You're shopping at Home Depot. You hear gunfire. Okay, so you draw your concealed weapon and you very cautiously make your way toward the shooting. You see a man. He's got a gun. Okay, you shoot him, right? Well, that depends. Is he the shooter or is he another concealed carry permit holder like you trying to stop the shooter? One of them you want to shoot, the other you most definitely do not. So it makes a lot of sense to determine this before you pull the trigger. This is why armies wear uniforms that all look alike, so that they are easily identifiable, so they don't end up shooting their own guys. Okay, so we got this guy who goes in and he kills 3 people. Now, let me ask you this. Do you honestly believe he went into that Home Depot with only 3 bullets in his gun? How likely is that? How likely is it that he went into that Home Depot with a full magazine, maybe even another one in his pocket, shot 3 people, and then just said, well, that's enough for tonight. I'm going to leave now. Okay, how likely is that? How much more likely that he went into that Home Depot with a full magazine, maybe even 1 or 2 in his pocket, shot at 3 people, and then found himself staring down the barrels of several other guns, and he decided he didn't want to die that night, so he left. So I think a better question is not why did 3 people get killed, but how come a lot more people didn't get killed? And how many people's lives were saved that night by lawfully armed citizens who had their guns with them that night? Now, I want you to think about the other bullets in that man's gun. And I want you to tell the people whose names were on those bullets that those people, other men, should not have had their guns in that Home Depot that night. Now, the death toll in Texas was much higher, 26. But it would have been a lot higher than that if not for a man named Stephen Williford. And who is Stephen Williford? Well, you're going to love this, anti-gun people. He is a former NRA certified firearms instructor with an AR-15 rifle. That's who he is. And there's just no way that anyone can deny the fact. You would have to be delusional to deny the fact that in Sutherland Springs, Texas, a bad guy with a gun was stopped by a good guy with a gun long before the police ever would have been able to get there. When he actually confronted the shooter was actually standing over a woman. He was walking among the wounded, making sure they were dead. He was standing over a woman, ready to put 2 bullets in her brain to make sure she was dead, when he was interrupted by Stephen Wilford and his AR-15 assault rifle. So, I want you to tell that woman that Stephen Wilford should not have had his AR-15 assault rifle. And there's actually something I want to show you about assault rifles. Now, for our radio audience, you're just going to have to bear with me here. I have with me an assault rifle, okay? Now, this is not like a classic firearm, let's say a Ruger 1022. Ruger 1022 is the quintessential .22 caliber rifle that millions of young men and young women grew up with across this country for decades. Many a varmint has met his end at the wrong end of a Ruger 1022. Now, not many people will tell you that that's not a legitimate weapon, legitimate hunting weapon. And so it'll kind of get a pass. This, on the other hand, like I said, is an assault rifle. And by the way, this assault rifle also belongs to me. So what makes it an assault rifle? Well, it's got this folding stock. It's got this pistol grip. It's got this high-capacity magazine. And if that wasn't enough, it's black and scary. So, Ruger 1022, legitimate hunting rifle. This gun, assault weapon. Ruger 22, okay. Assault weapon, evil and should be banned. And here's what I want to show you. We remove the magazine. We take this retaining ring off the barrel. We take the actual gun out of the stock. We drop it into this one, put the retaining ring back on, and we have a Ruger 1022. It's the same gun. Okay? Now, a lot of people will tell you that people who want to ban assault weapons are trying to ban something they can't even define. An assault weapon is a military style weapon. Well, a minute ago, this was a military style weapon. The fact is, assault weapon is not hard to define at all. An assault weapon is a rapid-fire, magazine-fed, automatic weapon designed for military use. Okay? That is an assault rifle. An AR-15. I saw another social media post today. Ban the AR-15 war rifle. Show me a single country on earth whose military is armed with AR-15s. You can't. Because an AR-15 would make a lousy assault rifle. For one thing, it's not fully automatic. You cannot do fully automatic fire with an AR-15. Now, what a lot of people who've never been in the military don't understand is that automatic fire is not used to kill people. Automatic fire, a machine gun, is used to pin people down so they can't move. And semi-automatic fire is used to kill them in battle. So there you go. Assault weapons. Let's see. So am I going to argue now that these examples of these two shootings are the reason for the Second Amendment? No. These these are happy side effects of the Second Amendment, but they are not the purpose of it. I was watching another discussion on Facebook and about the purpose of the Second Amendment. And I chimed in, just butted in with saying, the purpose of the Second Amendment is for the people to have more firepower than the government. I think I actually left a couple of people speechless because no one responded to that. And I'll explain to you exactly what I mean. You can argue all day long about who the militia is in the Second Amendment. And if you're not familiar, and probably a lot of people out there aren't, the Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? Now, let me ask you this. Would the security of a totalitarian state be dependent upon the people being armed? It almost seems silly to ask, but I think the security of a totalitarian state would depend on the people not having arms. So it's not the state, the security of the state they're talking about, but the security of a free state. It's the security of the freedom of the people that makes a well-regulated militia necessary. So, if you're going to, and since the state is a tangible entity that cannot appreciate or enjoy freedom, it is the freedom of the people we're talking about. So the Second Amendment says that we need to be armed to preserve the freedom of the people. And now, if you're going to predicate the freedom of the people that necessitates them being armed, and you're going to give the government superior firepower to those people, what is the point? If they're just going to lose, I mean, if it comes to revolution and they're just going to lose anyway, what was the point? And yet the Founding Fathers did give us the Second Amendment. So the purpose of the Second Amendment is for the people to have more firepower than the government. I would like to continue with a discussion of two widely used rhetorical devices, and I've been thinking a lot about these, and I really think that they deserve some discussion among people. They are the straw man argument and the false dichotomy. Now, my intentions are not to castigate any one person or group of people, because I guarantee you that people of all political persuasions have used both of these. No, my purpose is much darker and more sinister, more devious and underhanded. I want to make it much more likely that the next time you use either one of these devices, you'll recognize it and immediately cease and desist, no matter who you are. Okay, the first example, the straw man argument. And you're going to have to bear with me while I scroll through, because this is in the wrong order. Here we go. The definition of a straw man argument is an argument that it's a false proposition that is deliberately set up because it's easier to defend than your opponent's actual argument. Okay, so here is a good example of a straw man argument. Your car is Japanese. Your beer is German. Your wine is Spanish. Your democracy is Greek. Your coffee is Colombian. Your tea is Chinese. Your watch is Swiss. Your fashion is French. Your shirt is Indian. Your shoes are Thai. Your radio is Korean. Your vodka is Russian. And now you're complaining because your neighbor is an immigrant? Well, actually, no, I get along quite well with all my neighbors. And if you could see my neighborhood, you'd know that it is like a little United Nations, all in one housing subdivision. But as interesting as that is, they're not evenly distributed. The Middle Eastern people tend to live in one little section. The Eastern European people live in another little section, but we all get along just fine. There's a guy I've waved to every day for the last 10 years. He doesn't speak any English. I found out he's Bosnian because one day I asked him, are you American? And he said, no, Bosnian, but I think that's the only English he knows. Okay. So, here's the thing. No one is complaining about immigrants. We are upset by people who are here illegally draining the resources of our country. About people who are here illegally getting free healthcare. Well, free healthcare and free food and free education, except that nothing is free. Because if someone is getting something and not paying for it, someone else is paying for it and not getting it. Nothing is free. So that someone is, we're upset. I'm upset that a family member of mine who lived in San Diego, where illegal aliens get free health care, had to go to Mexico because he couldn't afford health care in San Diego. So he can't afford it at home, has to go to Mexico for his health care. Meanwhile, and he is a citizen of this country. Meanwhile, illegal aliens get free health care in his hometown. That's what we're upset about. But they're not getting it for free. They pay taxes. Well, so do we. And yet we still have to pay for education and food and health care, don't we? And that is the argument that is harder to defeat. And that is why they use this particular straw man argument. Well, there you go, bashing immigrants again. We're a nation of immigrants. No, we're not. 13% of us came from somewhere else, which, by the way, is the dictionary definition of immigrant. And the other 87% of us were born here, which is, by the way, is the dictionary definition of native. Now, if you're going to argue that anyone whose ancestors came from somewhere else at some point in the distant past, well, then every nation on earth is a nation of immigrants, except for one nation in sub-Saharan Africa, and we don't even know which one that is. So if everyone on the planet is an immigrant, then being an immigrant means nothing. If you emphasize everything, you emphasize nothing. But I want you to hold on to that thought, because right now we're going to take a look at this other rhetorical device known as the false dichotomy. A false dichotomy is a situation where two opposing viewpoints are presented as the only possible outcome or the only possible situation when numerous others are actually available. Here's a good example of that. Let's say we're in the emergency room at a hospital. A young man is brought in who has fallen through a plate glass window, has horrible lacerations on one of his arms. And the first doctor said, if we don't amputate right now, he'll bleed to death. And the second doctor says, no, don't amputate that arm. Now, here's what he's thinking. He's thinking, yeah, it's bad, but we can save this arm. We can suture the blood vessels together, restore circulation. We can rejoin the nerves, and he can regain some sensation and motor function. We can repair the muscles, give him back the use of his arm. Will it be as good as new? No, but it's certainly going to be better than not having an arm at all. Now, that's what he's thinking. But the first thing everyone hears out of his mouth is, no, don't amputate that arm. And so the first doctor goes, oh, you want him to bleed to death. Well, no, don't be ridiculous. But no, you want him to die right here in the emergency room. And of course, everybody else in the room has no understanding of the situation, goes, oh, you monster. Well, there's just there's no reason to listen to anything you have to say about anything ever again. So is any of this ringing a bell? Because I guarantee, I'm telling you, people do this all the time. Here's another example ripped from the pages of my life. Without some kind of socialized medicine, people will suffer. Like those are the only two possible outcomes: communist healthcare or people suffering. Okay, number one, are you seriously suggesting that no one suffers under socialism, under socialized medicine? I'd like to tell you to tell that to Charlie Gard. Oh, wait, you can't because he's dead. If you haven't heard of Charlie Gard, let me tell you about him. He was a baby boy in Britain. He had a very serious illness. But treatment was available for this disease outside of Britain. The British Health Service wouldn't give it to him because it was not cost effective. But the treatment was available in other places. It had been offered for free in these other countries. Transportation for the parents and Charlie was being offered to these other places where he could get the treatment he needed. But the British Health Services decided that Charlie Gard should die. They denied him the treatment in Britain, and they forbade his parents to leave the country in order to get it. And so Charlie Gard died. More accurately, Charlie Gard was murdered by socialized healthcare. And now you want it here. And if you're going to tell me about how he wouldn't have had any quality of life anyway, so it was okay to kill him, well, I'm going to have to nominate you for the socialized medicine death panels. Because 5 minutes ago, you were all about no one suffering. And now it's okay to kill people if their quality of life doesn't meet your standards. At that, I am speechless. Now, I said that was first of all. Second of all, we proved conclusively in the last episode of Dangerous Subversive Radio that there is a third alternative. And that is one that, and there are probably dozens more that beat communist healthcare all to hell. And I eagerly await a response to anyone who can tell me where the logic that I laid down in our last episode breaks down. So, you know what? I've come to the end of my notes, Jackie. So I want you to hold on to these thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you all in our next video. And until then, I hope you have a good night.